Right, so hello and welcome back to Books and Things, and welcome to another video. And today I thought I would make a recent Booktube favourites video. So every now and then I make these videos telling you about Booktube that I've been enjoying lately. I haven't made one for a while, so I thought I would make one today. So I have a few individual videos I want to shout out that I've really enjoyed in the last couple of months, and a few new Booktubers I have recently discovered that I've been really enjoying. So to start off with, I have three Booktubers, two of which are very new, one of which is not that new to Booktube, but all of whom are new to me and whose channels I've been really enjoying lately. The first one I want to mention is Jenny from Bookish Shenanigans. She is very new to Booktube. At the time I'm filming this, she only has 2 videos up, but I'm really enjoying her channel so far. She is currently doing a PhD in Victorian literature, specifically on the role of pubs in Victorian literature. Need I tell you more about why I am enjoying her channel and why I am sure I will love it a lot in the future, and why I'm sure a lot of you will love it too. Jenny is someone who I know watches my channel and who I'd spoken to in comments or on social media before about pubs in Victorian literature, which is really fun. It always makes me really happy where someone who I'm like familiar with from comments on my videos starts their own channel. It's just one of the things that really pleases me when it happens on Booktube. So yeah, I'm really enjoying her channel so far and would highly recommend it. Another person I've been really enjoying lately is Tom Reads Things. I will link his channel down below. His channel is chatty and friendly and really enjoyable, and just one I have been loving. I especially enjoyed his video on getting into classics, which was really good fun. Obviously I like to talk about classics and hear other people talk about classics on Booktube, so I really enjoyed that. And he also did a really good video, I can't remember if it was a review or part of a wrap-up, but talking about The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock, which is one of his favourite books, which I really enjoyed watching as well. And then another booktuber I've been really enjoying is Books with Brandy and Wine. She likes Shakespeare a lot. For most of April she's been hosting a Shakespeare month where she posted a lot of videos talking about Shakespeare, which I've been really enjoying, so I would highly recommend her channel, especially if you like Shakespeare. Moving on to videos I want to talk about, I have a few individual book reviews that I've seen on Booktube that I've really enjoyed lately that I wanted to mention, especially because I feel like individual book reviews don't get as much love or watch time on YouTube, but I really enjoy a really good individual book review. So there's a few I wanted to shout out, and then after that I have a few non-review videos to talk about. So one booktuber whose reviews I always love is Marissa from Blatantly Bookish, and she did 2 reviews in the last month or 2 on historical fiction. One was on The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock, and another was on Blackberry and Wild Rose, both of which I really enjoyed. I haven't read Blackberry and Wild Rose yet, but it sounds really interesting. I have read The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock, and I loved Marissa's review, especially because I really liked it, but I didn't love it quite as much as her, and it was interesting to hear things she got out of it, which I kind of like missed, or which didn't quite hit in the same way for me. Especially she talks a lot about mermaids and the symbolism of mermaids in terms of representing different women and different kinds of women and different like expectations of women within the Georgian period when this book is set. So I really enjoyed that video and I would highly recommend it. I've also been enjoying how much Pride and Prejudice content there has been on Booktube of late because of Steve Donohue's read along, and one review I particularly enjoyed was Alex from What Page Are You On? I will link his review of Pride and Prejudice down below because I really enjoyed it. I also have 2 book reviews from Olive from A Book Olive, which I really enjoyed recently. One was her review of Once Upon a River by Diane Setterfield. I love Once Upon a River. I love Diane Setterfield a lot, and it makes me very happy that Olive loved it too. And she just spoke wonderfully about the themes of this book and what makes it wonderful, and I would highly recommend her review. Her reviews are always like really on point and precise. It's one of the things I love about her channel, so I would highly recommend her channel and her reviews, especially if you don't watch her already. And another fantastic review slash discussion video that she made recently was her video Why You Shouldn't Sleep on Mansfield Park, which I loved a lot. So Mansfield Park, to explain, is a very underrated Jane Austen novel. It's my second favourite Jane Austen novel after Pride and Prejudice, and in some ways like I love it as much in some ways as Pride and Prejudice. It's just that Pride and Prejudice is a more comforting read, which is why it's probably my favourite. I don't find Mansfield Park as comforting, though I think it's absolutely fantastic. And it's really underrated. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people find it boring. A lot of people think the main character Fanny is too passive or quiet and not like strong and not like witty like Lizzie Bennet. And whenever they make film adaptations of it, they completely change Fanny's personality because they obviously think it doesn't work. But Fanny is an amazing character, and Mansfield Park is an amazing book. And it's not as romantic as some of her other books, but that's the point. And Fanny, while quiet and meek, is really like strong in herself and her sense of self and in her sense of morality. And basically this is what Olive was talking about in the video, and it made me really happy because not enough people say this about Mansfield Park. And she basically was talking about why she loves Mansfield Park and why Fanny Price especially is such an interesting character, and why her trajectory is really good, and why she's really powerful, and why the book is really cool and awesome. And it was a video that made me very happy to watch because I just agreed with like everything that Olive said. So if you like Jane Austen, or even if you don't, you need to go watch that video. And if you're someone who likes Jane Austen and you've read several of her books but you haven't Redmantle Park because you've heard it's not as good. It is as good. Go watch Olive's video and she will tell you why. Then another thing I have been really enjoying lately, Amanda Center has been doing a Bronte Binge this year in which she rereads or reads for the first time lots of Bronte books and books related to the Brontes. I've been enjoying all of her Bronte Binge videos because Amanda is amazing and one of the funniest people I watch on Booktube, and because I love the Brontes, but especially I loved her video review of Shirley, which is a novel that I really need to reread because I love it, but it hasn't stayed with me as well as some other Bronte books. And I wonder if that's partly because I've only read it once. And I think every other Bronte novel I've read twice, except for The Professor. I've only read The Professor once. Every time I hear people like Amanda and also Lucy from Lucy the Reader talk about Shirley, it just makes me think I need to reread this book. So if you haven't read Shirley, or if you have read it, or if you do reread, go and watch Amanda's video and she will tell you how amazing it is, and it makes me very, very happy because Shirley is a really interesting, very fantastic Bronte book, and yeah, her review is brilliant. Then a few other non-review videos I wanted to talk about that I've really enjoyed lately from some really fantastic channels. One is Kaylee from Books for MKs made a video on her favourite Dickens books, which I really enjoyed because I love Dickens, and I think she has slightly different taste in Dickens to me, which is always quite fun to see, and I just really enjoyed watching her video. If you're someone who enjoys Dickens, I think you'll really like that, or if you're someone who's read a few Dickens and is looking for extra places to go, especially because her favourites are not necessarily like the best known ones, I would highly recommend that video. Another couple of videos I've really enjoyed have been from Libby Stevenson. I feel like every time I make a recent Booktube favourites, there is some Libby Stevenson in here, especially my two favourite kinds of videos that she makes. One of which is her Bard Book Club series, where she talks about Shakespeare plays in great detail and with great knowledge and great expertise. If you like Shakespeare, you really need to be subscribed to Libby, and she just makes me look at Shakespeare in whole new ways, especially because I've seen a lot of Shakespeare plays. I think I've seen just over 3/4 of his plays on stage, but I've only actually read 2, and I haven't studied Shakespeare since I was 17. I didn't study any Shakespeare at university. So I come towards Shakespeare from a very like enjoyment while seeing on stage rather than analytical perspective, and I love Libby's analysis, which is so in-depth and so detailed and so fantastic. It just makes me think about Shakespeare in whole new ways, in a really fantastic way, and the videos are also really funny and really engaging, and just, yeah, they're amazing. I will link her most recent one down below, which I think was on Henry IV Part 1. Another series that Libby does on her channel, which I love, is her book cover costume judging, where she looks at historical fiction and whether or not the costumes the characters are wearing on the cover are accurate, which they never are, and it's a fantastic, hilarious series, and it's genuinely the most funny thing on Booktube. Another video Libby made recently, which I really enjoyed, was her discussion video on real people in historical fiction. How soon is too soon, when she was discussing like at what point it becomes acceptable to write a novel about a real historical figure, which I just found really interesting. And Libby was talking about like, where is your cutoff point? Like, okay, so it seems fine to write a historical fiction novel about a real person from ancient Rome. Okay, maybe it seems fine to write a historical fiction novel about a real person from the 18th century, but if you're writing a historical fiction novel about someone who only died like 20 years ago, that becomes a bit weird. And it was quite interesting to see, like, I'm trying to think of where my cutoff point is, because I know in general I would say that I don't read a lot of historical fiction about real historical figures, and I don't love historical fiction about real historical figures. The main exception being the Cicero trilogy by Robert Harris, which is about a real historical figure, but somehow I think because that's in ancient Rome and because it's a period in history I don't know much about, absolutely fine with it. Whereas books that like have real historical figures from the 19th century in them as major characters, I like that a lot less. So yeah, it was a really interesting discussion. I'll link that down below. A couple of videos I've really enjoyed lately from Claudia from Spencer's Library. One was her video on diary form novels. I really enjoy novels in diary form, and I really liked her discussion of it and her recommendations of a few different diary form novels. So I will link that down below. And she also made a video a month or two ago about where to start with Jane Austen, which I would highly recommend as well. Another video I've really enjoyed lately was one from Emma from Drinking by My Shelf, who made a video about novels that pretend not to be novels, which is really great fun because I really enjoy a novel that pretends not to be a novel. It's really, really fun when a novel adopts a form or it's pretending that it's a real like document of some kind. It's just really, really fun. So yeah, I would highly recommend that video. I'll link it down below. Another video I really enjoyed as Lucy from Lucy the Reader made a video on her all-time favourite classics, which was really fun, especially as I have fairly similar tastes to her in some classics, and I really enjoyed watching that and kind of guessing which Bronte and Hardy novels were going to be on there too. Finally, one other video, or I suppose like series I want to mention, is Shaun from Shaun the Book Maniacs, In Other Words series. I'll link the most recent video down below, but basically in this series, Shaun takes words and phrases and idioms from books he's been reading lately that he didn't know or that he doesn't know the etymology of, and then he makes a video like discussing them, and he researches where these words and expressions come from, which I just find absolutely fascinating. Like, it's just really, really interesting. I'm fairly interested in like language and idioms and phrases, and also how phrases and words come to have different meanings in different countries' versions of the English language. So I'm just finding this series so interesting, and definitely videos I would highly recommend. And I also find it really, really interesting learning from these videos what British English is not used in American or Canadian English, because quite often, like, I'll be watching his In Other Words videos and there'll be like 5 terms I've never heard of, and then a term that I like am really familiar with, a word I swear I use all the time that he's never heard of, and I'm like, oh well, that's elevenses is only a word in the UK? People outside the UK don't know what elevenses is? Like, obviously I'm not saying I have elevenses every day, but it's like you have tea and cake at 11 o'clock. I have tea at 11 most days at work because I like elevenses. Anyway, that's a tangent. Basically what I'm saying is I really enjoy Shaunt's other word videos, and you should watch them, and I will link them down below. So I think that's all for today. I just wanted to tell you about some booktube that I've been really enjoying lately, because I feel like I haven't done one of these shout out / favourite booktube videos for ages. So thank you very much for watching. Do let me know down in the comments what booktube you've been enjoying lately, and if you have any new booktubers to recommend me. In fact, I would really like recommendations for new booktubers, because I feel like I haven't discovered many new people recently. I feel like the 3 I mentioned at the start of this video are like the only booktubers I've newly subscribed to in the last few months, and I previously have subscribed to a lot more people newly. I feel like I want to discover more new booktubers. So please do recommend me people down in the comments below, and I think that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back very soon with another bookish video.